Good evening, everybody. It's Mike Pisani for Alpha Shark, and today is December 29th, and tonight we have something special. We have year-end charts for you guys. So what do I mean by that? Come on. Oh, we'll come back. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Let me give you the risk disclaimer. Day trading, short-term trading, options trading, and futures trading are extremely risky undertakings. They generally are not appropriate for someone with limited capital or little or no trading experience and a low tolerance for risk. Never execute a trade unless you can afford to and are prepared to lose your entire investment. All trading operations involve serious risk, and you can lose your entire investment. No trades are recommendations or advice, and we cannot be sued for losses of capital. All trades are for educational purposes only. Contact your broker or RIA for execution margin or other capital requirements. Everyone watching this presentation adheres to all risk disclaimers on optionhacker.com, alphashark.com, and Mike Pisani. All right, love getting that good. Oh, Pro, I love hearing that Santa was good to you guys today. All right, so today, guys, we're going to keep this simple. It's the end of the year. We're all tired. It's been a long year. Today was just one of those days. I expect a couple more days like this. We're going to go over market sentiment. We're going to go over my service offering, and then it's your charts tonight. And we're going to go over looking at some charts I want to look at, and then we're going to open up to you guys and go over as many charts as you want and to fill the hour up and take a look at some stuff. And we're going to look at it on the weekly and a daily time frame to try to look at different things and take a look at what we should be looking at going into next year. So I hope that sounds good to everybody. So sentiment here at this point, guys, is mostly neutral. You know I like to go over this stuff with you every time we do a presentation because it kind of helps set the stage of what we should be looking at and how we should be feeling about the markets here. Feel free to ask questions along the way, and when we get to the end of this, I'll pull up for your charts. I hope you guys all had a good year, first off. It was definitely a year where you just kind of had to hold your nose and keep buying stuff. And, that makes things tough. At this point, the fear and greed index is still a little heated, but nowhere near the levels we'd been recently. It's, back into the 60s. And, it's been basically hovering on the high end of this for most of the year. We've had very few pullbacks deep into the red here. And this has kind of become the new norm for the, at least so far for this year, where it stayed heated the entire time. Not exactly how I like to trade, but this is kind of how we've had to deal with it, and this is the market we've had. To go along with that, the stock twitch sentiment on the SPY has cooled off nicely into 56%. It was up over 70. The Qs are coming in to 70%. That was up over 80, and the IWM is back to 67%. That was closing in on the 80 mark as well. So sentiment the last week has really cooled off. Last week and a half, 2 weeks, especially thanks to this little bit of a not only pullback in the markets, this little bit of a diagonal drift we've had this last week has really helped. We're just slowly drifting down, and that's okay here. I'd love to see this cool off more and give us a much better entrance signal, but this is kind of where we get. If you look at the Qs, it comes into this area and it usually has a tendency to try to reverse up and out of here. We'll see what it does here, and we'll play it accordingly. The oscillators are really neutral. So the NYMOT, which measures the New York Stock Exchange, is plus 23. So we're nowhere near an overbought or an oversold area on this. It's very neutral. You can see it's really been tight for the last month, basically. Month plus, we have not gotten a good reading in either direction at this point. The NASDAQ, which is the NYMOT, is -5. Another one is just not giving us a lot of big ranges. We're not getting those big overbought, oversold signals much right now. It's staying in these very tight ranges, very monotonous and chopping back and forth. But right now we are getting a lot of trades because they are rotating quickly. And the one nice thing they've been doing in this market lately, and we're going to talk about that, is the option flow has showed you where they're going for the day. They've been very good and very upfront in buying options, and it either moves that day or the next day. The problem is if you stay too long, a lot of times you're in trouble, except for the rare exceptions like FCX, which has just been a monster of late. The VIX, guys, this thing is still dead. All right. Every time it pierces the Bollinger Band on the top, it gets sold right back down. I mean, you want right now until this breaks, until this stops working. Every time it breaks above this, it should be risk on. You get a topping candle like that and a break above it, you should be looking to go long the markets and not worry about that here. At some point, this will change. At some point, volatility return. At some point, this will explode higher. But until it does, I mean, this should, you should be looking at this every day. Every time the VIX spikes, and you see that, and if it gets one of those topping candles coming out of the Bollinger Band, you should think about going long, at least trying something. Doesn't have to be big. Take something long into that. Does that make sense? Because this has been working for the last 2 years plus. Just every time it does it, it comes right back in. So just keep that in the back of your mind there. All right, let's talk about the indexes up close, then we're going to look at some longer range charts. The Qs have been the weak link for the last couple weeks. Burst out to a new all-time high, drifted sideways, hit the 8-day, and today we came all the way down, just about tagged 21-day, but we reversed off of it. A lot of the weakness in the Qs today. Can anybody else not hear me? I think it's you, Mortisa. I think it's just you, bud. Everybody else was responding to me when I was talking. Yep, it's just you. Try reloading it and come back in if you don't mind. Thanks, guys. Today, a lot of that weakness was from Apple. Apple, and Apple's had a couple of events lately that's been a little bit bogus to me. One, you had the downgrade last week as it broke to a new time, just after it breaks out to a new all-time high by Nomura, and that just kind of was fishy to me. And today, you have a supplier saying that the demand for iPhone 10 is weak, and they've cut orders for it. They're cutting their orders for it. We can see this a lot in Apple, and it's not really bad. But it did have an effect upon Apple and Facebook and in Netflix, and Baba got hit. Some of the names that reversed, Amazon reversed, and Nvidia reversed hard today. And those are names that are probably going for window dressing, and the rest of them might be a little bit more careful in here as we go in the next couple of days. So we'll see. The SPX, and I like to use the cash index because it doesn't account for the dividends, is kind of just drifting. It's drifting all the way down to the 8-day. What's important here is this trend. The 8-day has been intact since this, I don't know if you see my mouse, but you go all the way down that gold line. It's been a month and a half, almost 2 months now. We've been holding that 8-day. And it's just been up, 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 come in, pull to it and go, pull to it and go. So, this is an area to watch. Do we finally break it and take a trip to the 21-day, which, by the way, would still be really bullish? Or do we, sit here tomorrow, open up, and then blast off, and they give us a little bit of a trend day? It's nice to get some trend days every once in a while to the upside. We haven't had one now in a couple sessions, so that would be nice. So maybe we can watch for that tomorrow, then for the next day or two. The IWM, which has been a tougher trade, going sideways here, still holding the 8-day after a big move up. The longer it can hold the 8-day and go sideways, I think the longer it's in play for a big move. If the banks come back into vogue, I think that one will get going here as well. Energy's rocking on biotech. We're going to talk about. Looks like it's trying to get ready to go. So we'll talk about some things for next year, and I like. All right, my open positions right now, guys, I'm really light. I still have my VXX March 50 call hedge on. I will ride that into the ground most likely. ILG, I have my March 31 calls for a buyout candidate. In common, I've been slowly adding. I have BioMarin, Twitter, TBT, NGD. I have Vail, which is moving up nicely now. A small biotech called Canf. I'm long AMD common. I have TSRO, which I think is a good buyout potential in that one. And I'm an OSTK common because I do believe that they're going to get bought. And when the CEO comes out and says we're going to complete a sale by March and hasn't named it, I think they're going to go. And I like that one as the only one of the few blockchain companies I trust to trade. Calls, I have Netflix Jan 205s and January 195s, which I added to 2 or 3 days ago. And I added some March 25 calls on Twitter today. And if you guys aren't in my service, we have killed it on Twitter over the last 2 months. We have, since last earnings, we have just been killing it on this thing, been buying it every pullback, selling it on every rip, and just playing it well. So you guys want to know why I got into Twitter today, and this is what I'm going to show you what opened my eyes today. So this is what the people in my service see, my private Twitter see. And what I started picking up on was that the Twitter weekly calls were piling up. And if you look down below, look at the volume on the December 24 50s and December 25 calls, 14,000 and 13,000. Now, normally I would say those were just traded, and we'll check open. We always check open interest in the service every morning. I post that. but the stock wasn't moving. They were buying these and the stock wasn't moving. Somebody's playing for news this week. Whether we're going to get it or not, I don't know, but somebody's expecting some type of news on Twitter here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen this. The chart is a 5-minute chart of Twitter today. You can see we moved up quickly in the first 15 minutes, and then we just went sideways for the most of the day. No harm, no foul done. It did tag the 8-day today. It held the 8-day. I just thought this was interesting. You don't normally see this type of weekly call buying, and it was sneaky. They weren't buying big lots. They were coming in small at first. And we caught this last week with FDC. FDC, they piled up 33,000 of those cheap 25-cent calls that day, and they started with lots under 200. And it wasn't until somebody popped a lot over 250 that I caught it. And at that point, we were on to them. I think that was last Wednesday that we caught that one, or Thursday. It was definitely last week. I don't remember the date. Anyway, so you guys here who are in here today, you should all be watching Twitter tomorrow. You should all have an eye on Twitter. What we did is we went out and we bought the March 25 calls. A couple people bought the Feb 25 calls, and we just started small. So if there's no news, we can add to it. I also thought it was a good place to start buying Twitter based upon the charts, and that's why we're in it. So that's my Christmas gift to you guys. I hope it all pays off, or my New Year's gift, and we'll see if we can't get another big winner out of Twitter. And we're going to talk about Twitter on a daily chart in a couple minutes. All right, service offering, then on to it. So guys, if you've had a rough year or you're looking for more information like that, please consider giving me a try. Every day I do a video recap, Monday through Friday, the day's action, updating my positions, and basically we go over what was good that day, what was bad, and what we like going into tomorrow, or for swing trades, what option flow we still think is swing tradable. We do a weekly webinar every Thursday, 6 p.m. live. Coaching session is for subscribers only. It's anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes, depending upon how many people are in and what type of questions you guys have. It's really all around, right around you. We do a morning setups video, delivered by 8:30 every morning. It goes over the top ideas, what's happened overnight, what looks good today, and things that I'm looking to trade that day based upon and the reasons why. And let's go over quickly what's going on overnight, different upgrades and downgrades, and what's going on in the world. And then everything is delivered on private Twitter. You get real-time option flow, news, market updates, and all my trades, exits and entrances, and when I trim some of the positions, all put in there. You've had no Twitter Pro? Oh my God, it's been, ever since earnings, it changed. We're going to talk about that. So anyway, all this comes to you guys. I deliver this to you guys. You can do it through AlphaShark with me directly, but through AlphaShark, first month is $49 a month. It renews at $99 a month. Guys, you will not be disappointed. I recommend, give me a try. Come on over, try it up. alphashark.com/bestcoaching. If you're interested in doing it directly through me, just hit me up on private Twitter at OptionsMike, and I'll be happy to go over that with you. What else? I do mentoring. If you've struggled this year, or you want to learn how to trade differently like I trade, or you want to learn options or technicals, hook up with me, send me a direct message. You go to my website, smartoptiontrading.com, fill out the form. I'll get back to you within a couple hours. I do a minimum of an hour. I can do multiple hours at a time. Every mentoring session comes with 1 free month of my service, so you see how my teaching and also works with you with my service and how everything kind of comes together. So those are my offerings, guys. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. You guys all know what I do here, and for those that are already members, subscribers, I love having you. Appreciate it all. Now on to the good stuff. Guys, we're going to go over charts for the rest of the night. I thought this would be a nice way to end the year. It's been a good year. So let's go and look at some charts and review them for the night. I'm going to start off with a couple, but you guys can start typing some in and we'll start going over it. So the first one I wanted to go over was the SPX, guys. And I wanted to talk about this because this is a 1-year chart. We're always looking at things in the short term. Look at how far we've come this year, right? From 2250 all the way up to 2692. That's a big, 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 big move in the SPX. Look how heated we are on RSI. I've been riding it. Look how long we've been riding the 8-day, right? We can see that. We've been riding the 8-day since right here, right? November 16th, holding it up. Look at a weekly chart. A weekly chart tells a really good story here, guys. We had this big move, very similar to this, back in 2013 and 14, and then we did a 1 year consolidation before we had this big February bottom. Remember that big sell-off we had in early 2016? We got that double bottom, and now we've blasted off ever since then. Look at RSI on the weekly. I mean, this market could desperately use some type of pull in, pull back to cool things off, and we're just not getting it here at this point. But it's something worth looking at, is something keeping an eye, is looking at long-term charts. A lot of people don't do that. Look at the Qs real quick. But I have a couple more, guys, and we'll get to your charts. I promise. I don't want to spend too much time going over it. All right, the Qs, not quite as pretty on a daily, but nice little moves. It's been much more volatile than the SPX. Look at on a weekly chart. Very similar. Heated up over here, up against the top again. Just pulling back to the 8-day. Notice the 8-day on the weekly has been big time support for this a lot. The 8 and the 21 day. All right. Let's look at some specific sectors. Everybody keeps asking me, why aren't you in the fins anymore? A couple of people, I'm like, well, because the fins to me on a daily chart are starting to show they're a little bit tired, guys. Look at all these red candles appearing up top, right? See how all these red candles are starting to come in? And now it's holding the 8-day. It tested it today. You still might have another move in it. But to me, it's starting to look tired. And on a monthly chart, weekly chart, it's had a big move after a long sideways consolidation. Really big, quick move up here. A little heated here as well. I still think these can go. I still think some of the names in there, specifically Wells Fargo Chase, is one I really like in there. I think Goldman Sachs has been a lagger, can play catch up, but I think you got to be a little bit more careful here until they come after the sector again. Anybody in energy at this point? Look at this change in character in the XLE. Hard to initiate up here at this point, but if it pulls back, I'd long CL, Fred, to get into this, right? Oil is strong, over 60 today, I saw at one point. I don't know where it closed. Look at the change in character in this chart. Big time change. It had this big top here and it finally broke above it. Finally took it out, couldn't get through it for a while, and then you had the explosion. XLE Energy is one of my favorite plays. Nice, Chris, I know you are, for next year. I wish they had waited. That's my only regret here, that they didn't give us till next year. I was hoping they would give us a little bit. Look at the long-term 5-year weekly chart. You had the huge down move, came off the bottom, pulled back again, and now we're starting to go. I would look for this to quickly come up and retest the 75 area, and then if we can get through this, you're looking up towards 80. And I do think that's likely next year. Some of the other thing that's going on, a lot of these oil companies like MRO are getting massive tax refunds from this tax break. They're going to get a big percent profit boost from these tax breaks they're getting. Thanks, Adam. 57.97. Thank you. It did hit 60 though at one point, right? It did hit above, and I think it came in a little bit. So I want you guys to keep an eye on XLE. I want you to let it cool though. Try not to chase it here. Let it come. All right. The other sector I really want to focus on for next year. IBB looks ugly, whippy chart, right? That said, look here. It's riding the 8-day. Look how tight it's getting in this area, this 1087 area. It's finally starting to push through. If this gets through, I think it goes quickly to 110. There's not a lot in here. There's not a lot of resistance at that point. And then we see if we can really get going on this here. Do they let it out tomorrow on low volume? I don't know. Maybe. Every time it gets to the top, it pulls back. But this is something I put on my radar. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, but especially for next year, I like it. And one of the reasons I really like it, look at the long-term chart here. We had this huge blast off top in 2015, right? That came in. Last year, we did nothing but come down, and now we're starting to ride up and held the 200-day on the weekly, and we're starting to get going here again, starting to wake back up. I like that. If you like to day trade, you guys want to take a look at Lebu. This thing moves big time. You can grab a couple hundred shares and get three to $5 on this on most days. Look at the size range this thing has on it. It's a great day trading vehicle. All right, so those are some of the ones I wanted to go over real quick. I want to give you guys some ideas here where areas I'm looking for. One more. I know everybody hates this sector, but retail stands to. Let me come back. So here's the difference, Harrison. IBB is heavily weighted by 5 stocks: Celgene, Gilead, Biogen, Regen, and Amgen. XBI is much broader, and I tend to like it better. It trades more even, right? Lebu is a triple leveraged one on the on biotech. That's why it moves so well. So it really depends on what you're looking for. XBI will trade slower and broader. IBB is much more explosive and weighted to those 5 stocks more than anything else. Make sense? So it's really not which one's better. It's what trading style do you prefer? I love Lebu. I do not touch Lebu. They do buy options on Lebu. I don't usually trade options. I just usually grab common and trade that for up and down, but I usually never hold it overnight. All right, retail. Retail's been beaten up. Retail is expecting to get a huge bump from all these tax cuts, right? Their tax rate's supposed to drop big time. That could be a big help. It's already woken up here with the idea of when the tax reform hit, right? Look at this move we've had in December all the way up to here. But if you look at it, I mean, these names have been beaten up. So think about Macy's, which has been beaten up, right? This is just starting to come out. Macy's has been destroyed. So look at the XRT is the ETF, but look at M. Look at this on a weekly chart, 5-year chart, all the way down here. A friend of mine, I have to give him thanks for sending me some articles. I mean, they have their balance sheets good. They're closing stores. They're going to create an online sales vehicle now to start competing against Amazon, and they have almost $7.8 billion in real estate. This is a great candidate to keep an eye on for next year, and the tax cuts are going to help them. All right, some ideas from you guys for next year. Well, obviously, we'll get more into it as the year goes on. I'd love to see a pullback. Will we see one? Probably not. This market doesn't like to pull back for anything. That said, if you look at the markets the last week, they've been definitely rotating into energy. Industrials, they're starting to play for infrastructure, right? So CAT's been on fire. You've seen Deere now starting to catch on fire. Steel names have been running. FCX has been in fuego. So, they're definitely rotating away from the Qs right now. Remember, what they don't like today, they'll like again tomorrow. And earnings starts in, guess what, guys? About 3 weeks. Yay! Never-ending earnings season. All right, guys, it is your charts now for the rest of the night. So I'll start with them up here, and let's start going. First one up I saw is Micron. AS, Micron. Micron, I've been watching this thing for an entrance every day. And what I love about this stock is they had great earnings, great guidance, showing that this sector has not yet oversaturated like everybody was saying it was. What I don't like about the stock is it had this nice big sell-off. Here's your earnings day. All right, earnings day, it gapped up and they sold it, and they've sold it ever since. And I don't like that because they shouldn't be doing that. So at this point, I was looking at it today for an entrance because you have the 8-day, the 51-day, and the 21-day all together right here, a nice confluence of support, and they gapped it below it and they sold it all day long. So on a daily chart at this point, it held the previous breakout, right? You see that? This is the last time we came through here. It came back and broke it once, came back and tested and held. If it can hold here and reclaim the 8-day, I would probably try something for a long next year. All right. We're going to go over every chart you guys post in here until we get to the end. So we have a good half an hour. We'll just take a quick look on a weekly chart. You see on a weekly, it just looks like it's consolidating on the 21-day and on the 8-day here and looking back up. So, Micron, huge move off the bottoms, probably needs a little consolidation here. They're probably giving it a rest. The call buying hasn't been there either in it. BA had a monster move off that last earnings. And now they're talk about buying EWJ jets, the other Embraer jets, jetliner, and that's what this pull-in day was, and it's holding the 8-day. RSI is heated, is cooling off. I do think that if this can hold in, it could get another leg up here. The longer it holds, I think the more likely it goes. Money's been flowing out, but it doesn't seem to matter. It's not selling it off. I like BA on a weekly chart. This thing's been, I don't even have to look at a weekly chart. The only thing you got to be aware of when you're trading a stock like this thing moved in a year from 153 to 295. It's pretty much doubled. Trim and trail, but don't Don and AS, be careful with it here at this point. That said, for a trade off the 8-day, if it holds it and gets some volume, I'd be all in with it. Facebook. AS, yeah, there has been some option flow, but nothing big in it. When we see big flow into Micron, it's millions of dollars, not small. It's big, it's huge, big blocks. They haven't been coming after it here. There's been lots of small little stuff, not the kind of stuff that really says to me they want it. When they want that thing, you know it. Trust me. When they want it, my private Twitter feed lights up like a Christmas tree, moo 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 all day long. We see that in names like Micron, not Micron, and AMD. We see that in when Netflix is really running. We see it. Some of these momentum sweepers, they just come in time after time after time. These constant sweeps coming into it. These are some small little buying, nothing to get really excited about yet, AS. But yes, there's been flow every day. Facebook here. Facebook's a little different. It had a big run, and now we've been consolidating sideways, right, since August. Basically, since August, this stock's been going sideways, consolidating, little highs, little lows, trading really, really sloppy here. It lost the 8 and the 21 days. So, what I hate about this stock is you had a nice reversal candle here. You can get on long. You could trade up to here, and then it gave you another reversal. That's what I like. It gives you reversal candles, right? Reversal candle. Went below the previous day's close, reversed, and closed above it. Up here, went above the previous day's highs, reversed, closed below it, right? You got clear reversal candles here, nice size ones. Came down, went sideways, tried to look good here again, reclaimed all the moving averages, looked like this was just a little bit of profit taking, and then has fallen apart. Not a name they want here into the close at this point of the year. At this point, it seems like. And I say it seems like it because, who knows? What they hate today, they love tomorrow, seems to be in this market. Just very slow, steady grind up here. I would not be surprised, though, if they bought it for a run into earnings at some point. Verizon has some flow, and then it's died off recently. So if you're in Verizon, hopefully you got involved down somewhere in this area, gave you a nice gap fill, gave you a nice run up to here. It broke through this gap, right? This gap here, came above it, and now is just grinding higher, riding the 8-day. Let's look at them weekly. All right. Weekly, you're coming into 5-year resistance. I'm not sure if this is all-time highs. It's possible for this one. So it might need a little bit to get through here, Don, right? I would, and especially this extended at this point off the 8-day on the weekly and getting heated here, I would trim and wait for them to come back for it, maybe look for a little sideways consolidation before it tries to take that out. We'll see. Microsoft. There was news today with Microsoft. I don't know if you guys caught it. Microsoft news was that they are looking to make a big purchase in the security space. And FireEye, F-E-Y-E, took off on that as they are considered to be somebody everybody wants to buy. That said here, what a year for this stock, right? Another stock, 61, and this thing hasn't moved forever and went from 60 to almost 90, right? 87 before. Now we've had this nice little pullback, holding the 8-day. If Qs come back in play, I think this thing will turn up with it. You just keep an eye on the Qs. Money has been leaving, but it's still a decent amount in it. It's not like it's getting really negative like here, right? That big sell-off, they took the money out there. Nothing here. So I just, as long as the Qs hold in, I think it's okay at this point. I like it on the 8. You got the 21-day. They're both right here together, and it's been riding these for a while. CL as in oil, Fred? I cannot pull up. Can I? I don't think I can pull up the CL on here. Can I pull up though? Is oil? Where is it at? Is it WTI? I think it's WTI. Nope. What is it? Now I gotta remember. I know I have a chart of it somewhere, or at least I used to. Yeah, USO I can use, but that's not doesn't quite trace the same there, Pro. I know that one. But yeah, we can use it. I used to have actually they have a stocking tracking symbol here for it, and I just cannot remember what it is, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long here. All right, we'll use USO. All right, USO, again, looking at this, big bottom coming up, breaking through this area, which for 1 year was his resistance all year, right? You have you can call it an inverted head and shoulders here. You can call it a cup and handle. Look at it on a weekly chart. All right, on a weekly chart, we can see this thing is just getting going off the lows, right? From all the way up here in the 40s, right? Came all the way down. This is just starting to wake back up again. Now, I don't think it's going to run all the way back up to here, but here's your little bit of, your little bit of cup handle here. We get above here, this 12 area, which is decent resistance. Your next move is up towards 13, and then maybe if it really wants to go, look for 16 sometime next year. That would be a nice real trade here if it can get going there. Oil would probably have to have a big move about that for that one to go. CMG, BBY, and Gilead. Let's try with CMG. CMG, this chart is just tough. This company is constantly a bad news magnet. um, now they have more sickness in LA, and they got sold off again, and now it's trying to recover down here again. I don't know. I've traded a couple times. There's been option flow in it. They all got wrecked on that news here. I tend to be very careful with this name at this point, Adam, only because it's such a bad news magnet, and they don't have, you don't hear it with the other food chains. There's something they're doing that's just not right. So I'd be careful with this one. That said, I mean, if you look at the long-term chart, this thing has just been absolutely sold off into oblivion. Right? This thing was $750. Everybody's like, this thing has to bounce. This thing has to bounce. I don't know. At some point, it will. At right now, I would see if it can hold this bottom area, this 270 area, and try to bounce off of that. What do you welcome? BBBY. Man, this thing used to be the darling of retail. What a tough times it has. It's trying to rebuild here. I'm sure tax reform will help it too. I just think a lot of this stuff gets bought online now and not necessarily through them, through Amazon. I think that's why they're struggling here. Not one of the retailers that's one of my favorites to look at here, Adam. I would look elsewhere, but if you like the name, you're along it, try it. If if it can hold these moving averages, I would try to go with that there. Gold. I think people have been using Bitcoin as their new gold here. That said, it's finally trying to come off the bottom. It's at a nice move. It's run a bit. You have some resistance up into this area, and then I would look to see if it can try to break this here. You got a lot of resistance around this 123 area if it can get to it. Gappy thing. I haven't traded gold in over a year. That tells you how I feel. Haven't touched it. Okay, Labu, yep, overstock. Over ST, okay. I'm in OSTK. I have a couple hundred shares of common. I'm a little under the water, but I've been trading this thing and scalping it. It came in, it held the 21-day, gave a big reversal candle, and is back up. When Bitcoin's strong, this thing is strong. I do believe if they're going to get bought and their CEO is saying they're going to be bought and this is going to be completed by March, it's going to go towards 100. That's what I'm looking for in this thing at some point. I just don't know how it gets there or by which way. It's had a massive move, so it's hard to trust. But that said, if you're going to play Bitcoin names, I like this and I like Riot. Those are the blockchain names. Those are the only two I really trust. The rest of them, I'm not really so sure about. Maybe XNet. So I like this one a lot here. I'd keep an eye on it. I'm long it, and I'll be adding to it as it starts to go here. I was going to add today, but I decided to wait and see if a little bit more volume came into it. REMX. I don't know that one. That Remax? Oh, rare earth metals. I know nothing about these commodity to be completely honest with you. From a technical standpoint, it's gappy. It trades on very light volume. I don't generally trade stocks that trade on under 1 million shares a day. I may own a couple spec plays in it, but I don't generally trade them. I definitely don't buy options on them. That said, it's had a nice big run, consolidating sideways and broke out here. It can get embedded RSI. I try to stick with it, and if you're not in it, I take longs of it versus the 8-day as long as it holds it here. Can I go over FANG? Like the FANG name, you're looking for, or just FANG the stock? We'll come back to that. We're probably going to cover a lot of the FANG names already, cover some, and we'll go over more of them. Adobe. Adobe, great earnings, double bottom, held the earnings gap here again, the second time it hit it, right? Coming in, you have a downtrend right here, right? You have a downtrend that if it gets above, you could try to go long it. At this point, it's under all the moving averages, the fast ones, the 8 to 21 day, and it's even under the 50. I would look forward to recapture some of these before I got involved in it. If you're in it here, I'd have a very tight leash on it, or if you're willing to be really loose, let it go to the gap and see if it holds that at 165. Google. So Google, big move, right? This year, up, gave a big pull down and then raced to new all-time highs. This was a beautiful trade. From here, you got a reversal candle, came up, consolidated on the 8-day, put a new all-time high, and has now pulled back almost to the 21-day with the rest of the cues. That said, I have no positions in it. I've actually haven't been looking at Google for the last couple of weeks. I've been pretty much avoiding it. I just don't want to get caught up in whatever goes on there. You have a very steep downtrend right here now. So if you can get above that in the 8-day, it might be worth a try for a long. Maybe he sees a little window dressing at this point. I don't think it's as much in vogue as the other names here. I'd wait for next year to see what it wants to do at this point. Walmart. Walmart has been so tough. Dom, we traded Walmart in the service a couple times. We've made money, some more than others. This thing trades so sloppy and tough. Every time it looks good, it comes back in. The best way to trade this thing, Don, is with a common and just hold it. Options, it chews them apart. We were long them and they were chewing apart. And here we finally got green, got out, came back in. Some people got back in it, and some got out and others didn't that day and came all the way back in. And today it started to go. Long term on this thing, it's had a big run. All right, you can see on the weekly chart, it came up all the way up here to 100. Big run of this thing off this big bottom down here now. That came back late last year. It tends to like to wait till earnings to move. So I think you got to be careful with this name, especially up at these levels. It's been embedded, overheated on RSI now for a good part of this year. I'm not interested in trading it here. It doesn't move enough, or it doesn't give me multiple days. 1 day pull, 1 day pull. I've lost interest in that unless you want to hold it. T. Right? Like Verizon, big move, got a V bounce, right? Back up into resistance here. Right? This area has been resistance. It was support. You can see right here what was support is now resistance for this stock. This is the second time it's tried to come up and bounce through it. Might need a little while here. I wouldn't be chasing it up here at this point. That said, 5G names are rolling out. Oh, I forgot one. I do hold. I do have Ericsson, ERIC again for a long-term hold because of the 5G. Verizon has made them their 5G supplier. So I think you're going to see a lot more moves to these guys with the 5G coming. I like it long term. As a trade here, I would probably initiate. I'd try to get it on a pullback here to the 8-day or even a little bit more and take a shot at this breakout level. We don't like saying breakout in this market. Breakout's a bad word. Apple. James, of course we can go over Apple. So Apple got just destroyed today on that news. I actually tried to trade Apple today. So let's talk about it. You had this nice move. Here's your earnings move, right? Up to here, and we've gone sideways. We finally put it all-time high and looks good, looks like it wants to run, gets downgraded, goes sideways for a couple sessions, holds the 8-day, still looks good, and then today the supplier news hits. It comes down. I tried to trade some today briefly. I got a couple options after the first 30 minutes on it. I took January 175s. I stayed with them. I got green. I didn't have a big position, and as I started to pull in, I sold them for a 0.02 cent loss. I'm not going to cry over that. And I decided to get out of the way as it wasn't holding where I want to. If it can hold this area, the 50-day and this support area, it could build for a nice build up here and run. For whatever reason, they have been working overtime to keep this one in at this point, so I'm being extra careful with Apple, James, at this point, just because of what's going on in it. They seem to want to keep it down right now. It might be under accumulation by some funds. They're trying to get into it. They love to beat it down when it's like that. On a weekly chart, looks fine on a weekly. It's still flagging here, right? You see the nice flag it's making here on the weekly chart. But on a daily chart, you have to watch it here. It has to hold this 168 area. We'll call it 168.90 for a close to stay in the game here at this point. So that's my view on the one and only great Apple. Court? I don't know that one. Okay. Concert Therapeutics. What do I see? Nice downtrend break here, right? Came down, clean breakout. If I was swinging this and I wanted to stay in it, and this big volume here, look at this volume today. So whatever they had news today, I would look for at least a test of the high here, 2084 on Court, if I wanted to swing it. Your first resistance will be up here at 1980, and then look for 20. So maybe here I take some off, and then I look to take some off and then leave a runner, a small runner for a what if at that point. Nice chart, Stephen. Very nice look. NVIDIA today, one of those names that just woke up for no reason. The whole sector was dead, but NVIDIA got going today for whatever reason today. Since this sell-off down here, it's been holding the 100-day, trying to put in a series of higher lows. Looked bad, yes, on the other day. Opened up strong today, and it was strong all day, and we took all the moving averages except for the 50. This is a name that probably saw some window dressing today because it's a name everybody wants to say they were in it because look at the size of this move, right? In 1 year, this thing has gone from 100 to over 200. This is what's probably part of the problem with NVIDIA, which is keeping it back here a little bit. This thing 5 years ago was a $12 stock. This thing, a year and a half ago was a $20, $16 stock. Where is it? Here, $18 stock. It's now a $200 stock. I've been thinking it's going to hit 200 sometime soon. It just hasn't seemed to be able to get there. Today, good volume. They were buying puts on it at the beginning of the day. They were buying calls on it at the end of the day. I didn't take it It's been too volatile. This area though, it's going to be stiff resistance. This 197.90. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 candles here. They've hit it. So just be aware. Don't fall in love with it. Take the trade. See what it can do. BABA, another name that I thought might see some window dressing, and they're not coming after it yet. So after this huge run, we had this sell-off, and it finally broke the 50-day, right? The 50-day had been support every time it came to it, broke it off here, had a bounce to the 50-day, got rejected, and now is struggling here to get going again. There's no really good, compelling pattern right now for me and BABA. Wasn't even my radar today, to be honest with you. It has support at this 170 area, 169.90, whatever you want to call it, and it's got resistance at the 21-day. The 21-day right now is at 176. You can play trades for it in either direction here until it breaks this range at that point. And again, this is another name just ran a ton, guys. If you look at this on a 5-year chart, God, I hate when this thing's slow. All right, here's your IPO of that big pull in all the way back here to 60. And now in the last year, it's had this massive, massive run. It's just tired. That's all. Just run a long, long way in a short amount of time. Priceline. Yeah. I don't trade Priceline very often at this point. I used to trade a lot more. This thing's very tough on options. You have a nice gap here. It started to push in and it pulled back again on it. Couldn't get into it, right? You see you have this big gap up to here. I keep looking at out of the money options. I just don't know which ones I want to play here at this point. Today was a weak candle on very low volume. Profit taking, getting out of the way. Money's flowing out. The one thing about Priceline, I use it as my barometer. Only big money trades Priceline. You and I don't go out and buy any volume of Priceline to make it move. Apple news coming across. Apple China suppliers show no sign of iPhone X order cuts. Yeah, so we'll see if this thing rebounds tomorrow. Put that, guys, in your back of your notes. Just seeing that news coming across the wire here. Okay, so Priceline here, if it can hold the MAs, I'd be interested in. It has an uptrend here, which comes in right around here. If it can hold that, maybe it gets a bounce. I'd be careful with this one here at this point. AS, Amazon, I love that. I love all this talk. Amazon's buying this, Amazon's buying that. Amazon's not no cash and is massively in debt. You remember, they had to finance $13.5 billion just to buy Whole Foods Market. They had to borrow all that. I don't know. It's a tough one for me when I look at that. To see them buying anybody here other than something small. And they have a deal in place with Kohl's already, KSS. So why would they buy Target, their competitor, when they already have started doing something with Kohl's? I think Kohl's would be the more natural selection for them. Personal thoughts, for what it's worth. Amazon, since we're on it and talking about it, had a beautiful candle today. I just didn't feel it and I didn't get in. It moved like 18 bucks today off the lows. Recaptured all the moving averages. Continues to show it's one of the best names in the Qs and in the beta sector. Maybe tomorrow it wakes up and gives us an extension, or maybe it comes back in. It's been tough trading at this point. Thanks, Harrison. IBN. No idea on this one, my friend. It's an international bank, right? Obviously, that's why it gaps around so much. I don't generally trade these type of names. That said, it's at decent resistance right here. Breaks through this area, and it looks like it can run. Yep. So, short-term resistance here, and then you have bigger resistance up higher. So if it can get through here, it looks like it can try to run. We went over Boeing, Don. Restoration Hardware. Hey, it finally came in a little bit. This thing has been a monster move off this bottom down here at this point. One of their favorite retailers. I'm not sure I understand why this one does so well, but the fact that it flossed the 50-day here, I'd be concerned. It does have support here. There's a breakout level from last earnings. It filled the gap, so I would see if it can hold here and turn back up. If not, if it can't hold here, I'd look for bigger support down around this 81 area, which was the breakout level and where it held here multiple times on Restoration Hardware. We'll speed this up a little bit to get more in. KSS, you read my mind on KSS. Beautiful candle today. Woke up nicely today. This thing's heated, overextended. I can't even look at it here or touch it. If you're in it, I would be taking profits into this. Look at this huge move it's had at this point. Retailers don't move like that very often. I would maybe leave a runner to say what if, but I think unless this thing gets bought out, it should cool off here at some point. Pull back in a little bit. We did Walmart, FDX. Transports were out. We're not in vogue today. The transports all got beat up today. Had good earnings. Here's your earnings gap. It has to hold that. The 8 days catching up. I would wait to see if the 8 day catches up and then propels this thing higher. Earnings were really good. I couldn't, between all the online buyers, it's hard for me to understand why these things wouldn't want to go further at this point. The longer it holds here and the 8 day catches up, the better I like it for a move upwards here. Trying to catch up to you guys. Euros. What we got? About 5 minutes. Euros. You have support right around this 885 area. Let's call it 880. So if it, that would be an area to look for support if it came to. Try to get going on volume today, and they sold it off. Whatever the news was on it, I don't know. Couldn't get back above the 8 day. So until it takes the 8 day to me, it's short. I want to see it retake the 8 day. It's been resistance now since it lost it up here. So you've had over a month of resistance. Once it retakes the 8 day and on a close, I'd see if it can get going to the 21 day at that point. All right, we did Baba. We did most of the FANG names other than Netflix. Yeah, Netflix. Netflix, this name is driving me absolutely freaking insane, I gotta be honest with you. It's really tight, guys. So since this candle, it's been holding the 100-day. The setup's getting really tight. The problem is it looks good one day and then it looks just as bad the next day. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. At some point, I think it wakes up. This name likes to run into earnings, right? You see how it likes to run into earnings? I just don't know if it's going to sell more or not. It's definitely not in play, but I like tight setups. When setups get nice and tight like this, I pay a lot of attention to them because they're usually getting tight for a reason. Somebody's like buying them or something's going on. They're consolidating and it's not selling. So we'll keep an eye on it here. It needs volume to get above this 190 area. 190 area needs volume. It gets above that, then I think it has a cleaner shot to run again. Netflix, what else? We got Baidu. Let's do that one. Guys, you don't have to try to type the same name 20 times. I see them. I'm going to run through them. Promise you. If I have, as long as as much time as I have. Baidu. So you have a potential head and shoulders top. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder here. Right? You can call your neckline somewhere down in here. See how it handles it even lower. It's sold off quite a bit here at this point. It's trying to hold the moving averages. The 8 and the 21 day have come down and have caught back above them here. Here's your 100 day. After this big move, it's consolidating, but it has no power at this point. Most of the China names have been out of play at this point. So I don't see a great setup other than it has a nice little tight little wedge coming in here. You can kind of make a little wedge on it. So we'll see how that goes. Amazon, Teva. Steven, I exited Teva today. I had a nice trade on Teva. I bought January calls last week. I sold them today up about 60 or so cents into the highs. Why did I sell them? Because it just looked a little tired here. Overall, I like this chart. I do think 20 is the next spot, and then once you get through 20, there's not a lot of resistance. This thing can squeeze. Big short interest in it. It's on my radar to get back in. I'd rather try to buy it back on the 8 day though than all the way up here because it showed a topping candle today, right? Shooting star. Couldn't go. Tried to go, failed, and closed back on the lows. So we'll keep an eye on it. I like the chart though long term. Kamal, that's tough questions. What do I see? You're in algo hell here for the next couple of days. So they're going to trade in generally we trade in a tight range. I will tell you this on the SPX and the SPY, we've sold in each of the last 2 years. We sold off the last two sessions of the year. So I would just be aware of that. That doesn't mean we're going to do it this year, but I would just keep my eye on that, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, we are down to 3 minutes, so we're going to do a couple of these really quick and go through them. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, and you're asking a really hard question there. I think it's going to be low volume, and we could see some profit taking into the end of the year and selling, and we'll go from there. JB Hunt, transport. This thing was a beautiful buy. There was actually sweepers in this thing down here. Came up, has been flagging. You got your extension here at this point. It's getting heated. This is not a name that gets overheated very often. I would be taking profits here and trying to buy pullbacks here on the 8-day. Nice chart though there as well. CRTO. Ugh. Ooh. Ugly chart here. I wouldn't touch this chart unless unless you had a reason to be in it. There's nothing really compelling here. It's been selling off for the last half of the year. Big gap down here, follow through down to 22, bounced into the 8-day and is now stuck. If you really want to try to be long it needs to clear and hold the 8-day, and then you get a move to the gap here at 26, and then if it can get into there, maybe you get a run up to the 21-day. AMD is going to be the last one of the night, guys. AMD. I'm long this thing. I'm a little underwater. I think I own them somewhere up in here at the common. I may add to it at some point. Started to look good here, and now it's sold back off. They just don't want this name right now. It's just back out of play. This is your area support. You got to look at this 989, 990 area 10. It's got to hold that. That if it breaks that is then you've got a long term potentially back down on that. Take a look at the weekly chart on that one. Yeah, dead cat bounce there. Don, cat has gone ballistic. I can't even look at it anymore. I can't even taste it up here. If you're in it, just put a stop in some place and just ride it until it dies. Cat looks awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is strong support even on the weekly chart, this 975 area. So this is an area, if it can hold, as long as it can hold here, it stays in play to go higher. So guys, it is 3 sessions left. I've been saying this in my service every day, and I'm going to say it to all of you guys here. If you had a great year, this is a great couple days to take off, including usually the day after New Year's is a very light session. Just a nom. If you haven't had a good year, this is not the time to try to make it back in one big session. Trade small, trade light, take shots, but be tight. Don't let things get away from you. I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight. I know it's everybody's caught up in the holidays. I hope you all had a very happy holiday season. I want to wish you guys all a very healthy and prosperous new year. Thank you again for following me. Thanks for being here. Chris, enjoy Tahoe. Carrie, thank you. AS, all of you. I love doing these webinars for you. I'm going to try to move next year to a weekly webinar. We'll get that out. I'm just deciding on the software, and we'll go from there. So we'll try to do this on a weekly basis at that point. Thanks everybody for joining me. Really, everybody have a great new year, and I'll see you all at the beginning of next year. Harrison, I would love to see a dip. I love to deploy heavily into dips. So may they give us a dip for us to buy into. Amen, my brother. Everybody be good. Take care.